Alexander Pierce stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse office, his steel-grey eyes fixed on the Manhattan skyline. The setting sun cast long shadows across the city, but his attention was focused on the stock market figures scrolling across multiple screens behind him. Each number, each percentage represented another victory in his relentless pursuit of perfection. "Mr. Pierce, the board meeting starts in 5 minutes," his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Acknowledged," he responded without turning away from the window. His reflection showed a man in his early 40s, impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, not a single silver hair out of place. Everything about him exuded control, from his perfectly knotted tie to the way he held his posture. The quarterly board meeting was just another stage for his mastery of the corporate world. As CEO of Pierce Global Investments, he had turned a modest family business into a billion-dollar empire through sheer analytical brilliance. His latest algorithm had predicted market movements with 99.8% accuracy, earning him features in Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. "The numbers never lie," he muttered to himself, a mantra that had guided him through decades of success. He turned to face the array of screens, each displaying complex graphs and charts that only he could fully comprehend. His eyes darted from one data point to another, his mind processing patterns and possibilities at lightning speed. The boardroom fell silent as he entered. 12 pairs of eyes watched him take his place at the head of the table. He didn't need notes or presentations. Every figure, every projection was etched into his memory with perfect clarity. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "Our Q3 results have exceeded even our most optimistic projections. The new risk assessment model has eliminated all statistical anomalies." For the next hour, he led them through a masterclass in financial strategy. Questions were met with precise answers. Doubts were crushed under the weight of empirical evidence. This was his element, a world where everything could be quantified, analyzed, and controlled. After the meeting, as executives filed out with expressions of awe and envy, Marcus Chen, his oldest board member, lingered behind. "Alexander," Marcus said, his voice carrying a note of concern, "brilliant presentation as always, but have you given any thought to what we discussed last month, about taking some time off?" Pierce's expression hardened. "The company requires my full attention, Marcus. Vacation is an inefficient use of time. You haven't taken a single day off in 3 years. Even machines need maintenance." "I'm not a machine, Marcus. I'm simply efficient." Pierce gathered, his papers, his movements precise and measured. "Emotions and breaks are luxury items I cannot afford. The market never sleeps, and neither do I." Later that evening, as the office emptied and the city lights began to twinkle, Pierce remained at his desk, reviewing reports and fine-tuning projections. His phone buzzed with a message from his sister, the third this week. Like the others, it remained unread. Family, relationships, emotions, all variables that couldn't be controlled, therefore irrelevant to his equation for success. The clock struck midnight as he finally stood to leave. His driver had been waiting for hours, but Pierce never deviated from his routine. The car would be there, just as it had been every night for the past decade. Everything in its place, every moment accounted for. As he rode the elevator down to the parking garage, Pierce reviewed his schedule for the next day. Board meetings, analyst calls, strategy sessions, all perfectly arranged like pieces on a chessboard. He had built his life on the foundation of absolute control, and tomorrow would be another demonstration of his mastery over chaos. Little did he know, tomorrow would never arrive as planned. The universe was about to remind him that some things lay beyond the reach of even the most brilliant calculations. As he stepped into his waiting car, the wheels of fate were already in motion, preparing to shatter his perfectly ordered world into 1,000 uncontrollable pieces. The morning began like any other in Alexander Pierce's meticulously organized life. His alarm chimed at exactly 5:30 a.m., and he proceeded through his precisely timed morning routine. 45 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes for grooming, 15 for breakfast, a schedule he had maintained for 15 years without deviation. The first sign that this day would be different came during his morning commute. His driver, Thomas, was oddly quiet, missing their usual discussion of the morning's financial news. Pierce noticed but didn't comment. Human behavior was too unpredictable to waste time analyzing. "Sir," Thomas finally spoke, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "there's heavy traffic ahead. Would you like me to take an alternate route?" Pierce glanced at his watch. The probability of delays on alternative routes would be higher. Maintain course. His response was categorical, brooking no argument. He returned to reviewing market projections on his tablet, fingers dancing across the screen as he adjusted variables in his latest predictive model. The traffic thickened, cars crawling forward at a frustrating pace. Pierce's jaw tightened almost. Imperceptibly, the only outward sign of his growing irritation. A car horn blared somewhere ahead, followed by the screech of brakes. What happened next occurred in a fraction of a second, yet seemed to unfold in slow motion. A delivery truck swerved sharply to avoid a stalled vehicle, careening across lanes. Thomas reacted instantly, but the space for maneuvering was too tight. The impact was inevitable. Pierce felt a violent jolt, heard the crunch of metal and shattering glass. His world spun, a kaleidoscope of chaos that defied every principle of order he lived by. Something struck his head, hard. Then darkness descended, swift and absolute. He awoke to a symphony of beeping machines and hushed voices. The world was dark, but not in a familiar way. This darkness was complete, impenetrable. "Mr. Pierce?" A female voice, professional but gentle. "I'm Dr. Sarah Martinez. You're at Mount Sinai Hospital. Can you hear me?" "Why can't I see?" His voice sounded foreign to his own ears, raw and uncertain. The silence that followed lasted precisely 3 seconds. He counted them, clinging to this small measure of control. "Mr. Pierce, you've suffered severe trauma to your optical nerve system," Dr. Martinez explained. "The impact caused significant damage." "Probability of recovery," he interrupted, falling back on the comfort of statistics. Another pause, longer this time. "The damage is extensive. We've consulted with leading specialists. I need you to understand, the condition appears to be permanent." The words hit him like physical blows, each one cracking the foundation of his carefully constructed world. Permanent. The concept was unprecedented in his lexicon of solutions and strategies. "There must be a procedure, a treatment protocol," he insisted, his voice gaining strength. "Every problem has a solution. It's simply a matter of identifying the correct variables." "Mr. Pierce," Dr. Martinez's voice was gentle but firm, "I understand this is difficult to accept. We'll arrange for you to meet with our best specialists, but you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that this is your new reality." New reality. The phrase echoed in his mind, a mockery of everything he believed about control and certainty. His hands gripped the hospital bed sheets, knuckles white with tension. For the first time in his adult life, Alexander Pierce felt something he had never allowed himself to experience: absolute, uncontrollable fear. The next few days passed in a blur of tests, consultations, and increasingly desperate searches for alternatives. Each specialist delivered the same verdict. Each second opinion confirmed the initial diagnosis. The man who had built an empire on his ability to see patterns and predict outcomes was now facing a future shrouded in permanent darkness. His sister Catherine arrived, her presence announced by the click of heels and the scent of her familiar perfume. "Alex," she said, and he heard years of unspoken words in that single syllable. "Let me help you." "I don't need help," he responded automatically, even as his world crumbled around him. "This is a temporary setback. I just need to analyze the situation and develop an appropriate strategy." But as he sat in that hospital room, surrounded by machinery he couldn't see and people whose faces he could no longer read, a terrifying realization began to take hold. For the first time in his life, Alexander Pierce was facing a problem that spreadsheets and algorithms couldn't solve. The transition from hospital to home felt like exile to Alexander Pierce. His penthouse, once a testament to his success, had become a maze of unseen obstacles. Every step was a reminder of his newfound vulnerability, every familiar space now foreign and threatening. "I've arranged for a live-in caretaker," Catherine announced one morning, her voice carrying that mix of determination and concern that had become increasingly familiar. "She comes highly recommended, with years of experience working with visually impaired executives." "Unnecessary," Pierce replied curtly, seated in his home office chair. He had insisted on maintaining his regular work schedule, even if he couldn't see the screens that surrounded him. "I've already developed a system." Catherine sighed, a sound he had heard more frequently in the past weeks than in all their previous years combined. "Alex, you can't keep going like this. Yesterday you almost fell down the stairs. The day before you knocked over an entire shelf trying to reach your phone." "Minor adjustments to be made. Everything can be optimized with proper analysis." "This isn't a business problem you can solve with analytics." The frustration in her voice was palpable. "You need help, and accepting that isn't a sign of weakness." Pierce turned his chair toward where he calculated his sister's voice was coming from. "I built this company by never accepting limitations. I won't start now." The sound of heels clicking against hardwood indicated Catherine's movement. She was pacing. 3 steps left, 3 steps right, her typical pattern when agitated. "The board is worried, Alex. Marcus called me yesterday. They're concerned about the company's stability. The company is fine, all protocols are in place, and I'm still fully capable of making decisions. You haven't attended a meeting in 3 weeks. You won't take calls. The market is starting to notice." Pierce's jaw tightened. "Arrange a board meeting for tomorrow. I'll demonstrate that nothing has changed." "Alec," Catherine's voice softened. "Everything has changed. You need to accept that before you lose everything you've built." The meeting was set for 10 a.m. the next day. Pierce spent hours practicing walking the path from his office to the boardroom, counting steps, memorizing turns. By morning, he had it perfected, or so he thought. His entrance into the boardroom was intended to be commanding, a show of strength. Instead, he miscalculated the distance to the table, his hand grazing empty air where he expected solid wood. The momentary fumble sent whispers rippling through the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, forcing confidence into his voice, "I understand there have been concerns about my ability to lead this company. Let me assure you that my condition has not affected my judgment or capabilities." "Alexander," Marcus's voice came from his left, gentle but firm. "We've reviewed the situation carefully. The board feels that a temporary leadership transition might be in everyone's best interest." The words hit him like a physical blow. Temporary transition? On what grounds? "The market requires confidence, Alex," another board member spoke up. "Johnson," he thought, "your condition. It makes investors nervous. We need to project stability." "Stability?" Pierce's voice carried a dangerous edge. "I built this company from the ground up. Every success we've achieved has been through my strategies, my innovations. You want to talk about stability? Look at the numbers. Third quarter profits up 40%. Risk exposure down by half. Show me where my condition has negatively impacted this company." "It's not just about the numbers anymore," Marcus said, softly. "Leadership requires presence, visibility. The market needs to see strength, not..." "Not what, Marcus? Not weakness. Is that what you see now? A weak man who needs to be pushed aside?" The silence that followed was deafening. Pierce could feel their stares, their pity, their judgment. Everything he had fought against his entire life was now being offered freely, wrapped in corporate courtesy. "I move to table this discussion," he said, his voice arctic. "This meeting is adjourned." He stood, turning to leave with as much dignity as he could muster, but his carefully counted steps betrayed him. He misjudged the distance to the door, his shoulder catching the frame hard enough to make him stumble. The sound of chairs scraping and murmured concerns followed him down the hallway. His assistant tried to help, but he waved her away with a snarl. Pride propelled him forward, even as his world spun in darkness. Back in his office, he sat in silence, his mind racing through scenarios and possibilities. The company was his life, his identity. Without it, without control, what was he? The intercom buzzed, his assistant's voice, hesitant but insistent. "Mr. Pierce, your sister is here with Ms. Chen. Send them away." "Alex," Catherine's voice, came through clearly. She had obviously pushed past his assistant. "You need to listen. Emily Chen has a proposal you should hear." "Emily?" Pierce frowned. Marcus Chen's daughter. He remembered her from company events, always quiet, observant. "What proposal?" "There might be an alternative treatment." Emily's soft voice carried an undercurrent of certainty that caught his attention. "Not through traditional medicine, but something different, something your algorithms might not have considered." Pierce's laugh was bitter. "Alternative treatment? What's next? Crystal healing, miracle cures?" "No," Emily replied, unfazed by his sarcasm. "Something that helped my mother when doctors said she would never walk again. Something that defies statistical analysis, but produces results that can't be ignored." For the first time since the accident, Pierce felt a flicker of something dangerous. Hope. But hope was irrational, unquantifiable. Hope was what weak people clung to when logic failed them, wasn't it? The car ride to the address Emily had provided was silent. Pierce sat rigidly in the back seat, his mind still wrestling with the irrationality of what he was doing. He had spent the previous night researching alternative medicine, or rather, having his assistant read him studies and statistics about success rates and placebo effects. "We're here, Mr. Pierce," Thomas announced, the car rolling to a stop. "Where exactly is here?" Pierce asked, detecting unfamiliar sounds and scents. Gone were the usual city noises. Instead, he heard children playing, distant music, the rustle of trees. "We're in a residential area," Catherine explained, opening his door. "About 30 minutes from Manhattan." Pierce allowed his sister to guide him, each step an exercise in suppressed frustration. The ground beneath his feet changed from pavement to what felt like a gravel path. The air carried the scent of herbs and flowers, so different from the sterile environment he was accustomed to. A door opened, and a voice he didn't recognize greeted them. "Welcome, Mr. Pierce. I'm Maria. Emily called ahead. We've been expecting you." The voice belonged to an older woman, her accent suggesting Hispanic origins. Pierce detected warmth in her tone, but also something else, a quiet authority that reminded him of his grandmother, the only person who had ever managed to make him feel both comfortable and slightly off balance. "Please come in. Watch your step." There's a small threshold. Inside, the air was warm and heavy with unfamiliar scents, incense perhaps mixed with something else he couldn't identify. His analytical mind immediately began cataloging sensations, trying to maintain some semblance of control over his environment. "Sit, please," Maria directed. "The healer will see you shortly." "The healer?" Pierce couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. "Does this healer have a name?" "He has many names," Maria replied, unperturbed by his tone, "but here we simply call him Master Chen." Pierce straightened in his chair. "Chen? As in my father?" Emily's voice came from somewhere to his left, surprising him. "I thought it best to be here when you arrived." Before Pierce could respond, a new presence entered the room. He felt it before he heard anything, a shift in the air, a sense of gravity that his rational mind couldn't explain. "Alexander Pierce," voice spoke, elderly, accented, but carrying a strength that commanded attention. "My daughter tells me you seek healing." "Master Chen," Pierce acknowledged, trying to maintain his professional demeanor. "I'm here because traditional medicine has failed to provide satisfactory results. I'm told you might offer alternatives." A soft chuckle. Always the businessman, even now. "Tell me, Mr. Pierce, what do you seek? To see again, or to understand why you've been made blind?" The question caught him off guard. "I don't understand. The cause is clear. Physical trauma from the accident." "Is it?" Master Chen's voice moved closer. "You've been blind long before your eyes failed you. Blind to connections, to emotions, to the parts of life that cannot be measured or controlled." Anger flared in Pierce's chest. "I came here for treatment, not philosophy." "Did you?" Footsteps circled his chair. Or did you come because for the first time in your life, you've encountered something your numbers cannot solve? Pierce stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair. This was a mistake, Catherine. We're leaving. Sit down, Alexander. Master Chen's voice carried an authority that Pierce's body obeyed before his mind could object. You've spent your life hiding behind spreadsheets and algorithms. You've built walls so high that even you can't see over them anymore. Perhaps this darkness is not a curse, but an opportunity. An opportunity? Pierce's laugh was bitter. To lose everything I've built? To become dependent on others? An opportunity to learn that not everything of value can be quantified, that some truths exist beyond the realm of logic. A hand touched Pierce's shoulder, its warmth spreading through him in an unsettling way. Your eyes may be damaged, but your true blindness lies deeper. Something in the old man's words resonated in a place Pierce had long ago locked away. Memories surfaced. His father's disappointed face when young Alexander preferred books to baseball, his mother's tears when he missed her final. Moments because of an important meeting, relationships sacrificed on the altar of success. What? Pierce's voice wavered. What exactly are you proposing? Not a miracle cure, Master Chen replied, but a journey, one that will require you to question everything you believe about control, about success, about what it means to truly see. The rational part of Pierce's mind screamed that this was nonsense, that he should leave immediately. But another part, a part he had suppressed for decades, whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, there was wisdom in these words. And, if I agree to this journey, then you must commit fully. No half measures, no hiding behind your walls of logic. You must be willing to explore the spaces between your carefully crafted equations. Pierce sat in silence, weighing options that couldn't be quantified, considering possibilities that defied statistical analysis. Finally, he spoke. When do we begin? The first week of Pierce's treatment challenged everything he believed about healing and progress. Instead of the structured therapy sessions he expected, Master Chen insisted on what he called presence practice. Hours spent sitting in silence, listening to the world around him. Your mind races like a trapped animal, Master Chen observed on their third morning. They sat in what Pierce had learned was a small garden behind the healing center, always calculating, always trying to solve. When was the last time you simply existed in a moment? Existing without purpose is inefficient, Pierce replied, shifting uncomfortably on the wooden bench. The morning air was cool against his face, carrying unfamiliar scents that his mind still tried to categorize and analyze. Ah, efficiency, the great lie of the modern world. Master Chen's voice carried a hint of amusement. Tell me, what do you hear right now? Pierce sighed but complied with the exercise. Traffic in the distance, birds, wind in the trees, a child playing somewhere nearby. He listed the sounds like items in a report, clinical and detached. And what do these sounds make you feel? Feel? Pierce frowned. They're just environmental factors, data points. Everything is data to you, isn't it? Even now in darkness you try to quantify the world. But what if the most important things cannot be measured? What if healing begins when you stop trying to control every moment? Before Pierce could argue, a new sound caught his attention, footsteps approaching, light and quick on the gravel path. Good morning, Master Chen, a young voice called out. I brought the herbs you asked for. Ah, Miguel, perfect timing, Master Chen replied. Alexander, this is Miguel. He helps tend our garden and assists with various tasks around the center. Hello, Mr. Pierce, Miguel said, his voice carrying an earnest energy that Pierce found both irritating and oddly compelling. Master Chen has told me about you. Is it true you can calculate complex math problems in your head? Pierce nodded stiffly, unused to such direct curiosity. Mathematical ability is simply a matter of practice and proper methodology. Wow, Miguel breathed. Maybe you could teach me sometime? I'm trying to improve my math skills for school, but numbers don't always make sense to me. Before Pierce could dismiss the request, Master Chen interjected. An excellent idea. Alexander, You'll tutor Miguel 3 times a week. Miguel, you'll help Alexander learn to navigate the garden without assistance. What? Pierce straightened. I'm here for treatment, not to teach remedial mathematics. Everything is treatment, Master Chen said firmly. You need to learn that giving is as important as achieving. Miguel, when would you like to begin? Now? The boy's enthusiasm was unmistakable. I have my algebra homework with me, and I could show Mr. Pierce around the garden right after. Pierce opened his mouth to object, but something stopped him. Perhaps the genuine excitement in Miguel's voice, or maybe the realization that arguing with Master Chen was proving consistently futile. The next hour passed in an unexpected blur. Despite his initial reluctance, Pierce found himself drawn into explaining mathematical concepts, translating them into terms the boy could understand. Without visual aids or calculators, he had to rely solely on words and analogies. So if x equals the number of apples, Miguel reasoned slowly, and y equals the number of oranges, then 2 kicks plus 3y has to equal the total cost. Correct, Pierce confirmed, surprised by the small surge of satisfaction he felt at the boy's progress. Now, if we know the total cost and the number of apples, I can figure out how many oranges there are, Miguel exclaimed. That's actually kind of cool. After the math lesson, true to his word, Miguel began teaching Pierce about the garden. The boy's descriptions were far from technical. He spoke of the velvety leaves of one plant, the star-shaped flowers of another. He guided Pierce's hands to feel different textures, explaining which plants had healing properties and which were purely for beauty. Beauty is subjective and non-quantifiable, Pierce muttered, even as his fingers traced the delicate pattern of a leaf. Maybe that's what makes it special, Miguel suggested. Not everything needs to be counted to be important, right? The simple wisdom in those words caught Pierce off guard. He remained silent as Miguel continued the tour, his mind struggling with concepts that defied his usual analytical framework. Later, as Catherine arrived to drive him home, Master Chen pulled him aside. Your first real lesson was today, though you may not realize it yet. Teaching basic algebra to a child is hardly a lesson, Pierce responded. No? Master Chen's voice held that knowing tone that Pierce was beginning to recognize. You taught numbers, but you learned something about connection. You gave knowledge, but received a new way of experiencing the world. The question is, are you ready to acknowledge what cannot be measured? Pierce left the center that day with more questions than answers. The familiar weight of his watch felt heavy on his wrist. A timekeeper, for a man who was beginning to suspect that the most important changes couldn't be tracked in minutes and hours. As days turned into weeks, Pierce found his carefully structured world being dismantled piece by piece. Master Chen's treatments continued to defy conventional logic. Meditation sessions, herb therapy, and most challenging of all, regular interactions with the center's diverse community of seekers and healers. Your sister called, Thomas informed him one morning as they drove to the center. She wanted to know how the treatments are progressing. Pierce considered the question. By any measurable metric, nothing had changed. His physical condition remained the same. Yet something was shifting, subtle but undeniable, like tectonic plates moving beneath the surface of his consciousness. Tell her the results are inconclusive, he replied. The car pulled to a stop and Thomas helped him out. Pierce had memorized the path to the center's entrance now, counting steps automatically. 19 steps forward, turn right at the change in ground texture, 12 more steps to the door. Mr. Pierce, Miguel's voice greeted him. I got an A on my math test, and I have something to show you in the garden. Despite himself, Pierce felt his lips curve slightly. The boy's enthusiasm had become a familiar bright spot in his dark world. Congratulations on the test, though with your improving grasp of algebraic concepts, I'm not surprised. Miguel's hand slipped into his, something that would have been unthinkable weeks ago, but had somehow become natural. Come on. The morning. Glories just bloomed and they feel amazing. As they walked through the garden, Pierce noticed something strange. The counting in his head had stopped. Instead of measuring each step, he was aware of other things. The warming morning sun on his face, the subtle changes in the ground beneath his feet, the various fragrances that Miguel had taught him to identify. "Here they are." Miguel guided Pierce's hand to a delicate flower. "Feel how the petals spiral. They open every morning when the sun comes up and close again at night. It's like they're dancing with the day." Pierce traced the flower's form, trying to create a mental image. "The pattern seems to follow the Fibonacci sequence," he mused. "Nature's mathematics. Or maybe mathematics is just our way of trying to understand nature." A new voice joined them, Maria, the center's caretaker. "Miguel, your mother's here for your checkup." "Oh right, I'll be back later, Mr. Pierce. Don't forget we have another math lesson tomorrow." As Miguel's footsteps faded, Pierce turned toward Maria. "His mother? I didn't realize he was a patient here." "Miguel has been coming to the center for 2 years," Maria explained, her voice softening. "A rare condition affects his spine. Western doctors said he would never walk without assistance, but here he found something different." Pierce absorbed this information, recalling Miguel's boundless energy, his easy movement through the garden. "How?" "The same way you might find your healing," Maria replied, "by accepting that some things work in ways we don't fully understand, by believing in possibilities beyond what science can explain." Later that day, during his session with Master Chen, Pierce found himself thinking about, "Miguel, why didn't you tell me about his condition?" "Would it have changed how you taught him?" Master Chen asked. "Would you have treated him differently if you knew?" "No, but..." Pierce paused, realizing the truth in those words. In his darkness, he had connected with Miguel simply as an eager student, without judgments or preconceptions. "You see," Master Chen said quietly, "sometimes our limitations become our greatest teachers. Your blindness has allowed you to see Miguel more clearly than you might have with your eyes." "That's not logical," Pierce protested, but the words lacked their usual conviction. "Logic is a tool, Alexander, not a way of life. You're beginning to understand this, even if you won't admit it yet. Tell me, how do you measure the value of Miguel's joy when he masters a new equation? How do you quantify the trust he shows?" "By guiding you through the garden." Pierce sat in silence, his mind wrestling with concepts that couldn't be contained in spreadsheets or algorithms. He thought of Miguel's resilience, his uncomplicated acceptance of both his own challenges and Pierce's limitations. There was a lesson there, but acknowledging it meant questioning everything he had built his life upon. "I have a new assignment for you," Master Chen announced. "Tomorrow you will join our community dinner. No calculating, no analyzing, just listening and sharing." "I don't do well in social situations," Pierce said stiffly. "Precisely why you need this." Master Chen's tone brooked no argument. Sometimes the best medicine is simply being present with others who understand struggle, who know what it means to face the impossible and choose to continue anyway. As Pierce left the center that evening, he realized something that both troubled and intrigued him. For the first time since his accident, he had gone an entire day without thinking about his company, about stock prices, about the empire he had built. Instead, his mind was full of morning glories, algebra lessons, and the sound of a young boy's laughter. The community dinner proved to be more challenging than any board meeting Pierce had ever attended. Seated at a long table in the center's main hall, surrounded by voices and movements he couldn't see, he felt more vulnerable than he cared to admit. "Everyone here has a story," Maria explained as she placed a bowl of something fragrant in front of him. "Some come for physical healing, others for emotional wounds, but we all share our meals and our journeys." Pierce gripped his spoon, hyper-aware of every movement. The prospect of eating in public, potentially making a mess, sent his anxiety spiraling. A light touch on his arm made him start. "Here, let me help," a woman's voice offered. "The bowl is at 2 o'clock, water glass at 1. I'm Claire, by the way. 6 months ago I couldn't even feed myself after my stroke. Now I'm teaching art classes again." "Art?" Pierce couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. "How can you—" "Create without perfect motor control," Claire finished, a smile in her voice. "The same way you're learning to live without sight. We adapt, we find new ways. Sometimes the limitations lead to unexpected beauty." Around the table, conversations flowed. Pierce found himself drawn into discussions that had nothing to do with stock markets or profit margins. A former dancer spoke about rediscovering movement after an accident. A veteran shared his struggle with PTSD and how the center's meditation practices had helped him find peace. "Mr. Pierce," Miguel's voice cut through the buzz of conversation. "Can I sit next to you? Mom said it's okay." "Of course," Pierce found himself saying, surprising even himself with the warmth in his voice. He felt Miguel slide into the chair beside him, the boy's energy palpable. "Everyone," Miguel announced proudly. "Mr. Pierce is teaching me algebra. Did you know he can solve huge equations in his head? Yesterday he showed me how math is like a puzzle, and now I can solve problems I never understood before." Pierce felt something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. At the boy's words, a warmth that had nothing to do with achievement or success metrics. "Is this the same Alexander Pierce who told me last week that teaching was an inefficient use of his time?" Master Chen's amused voice carried from somewhere across the table. Laughter rippled through the group, but it wasn't the mocking kind Pierce had feared. It was warm, inclusive, the gentle teasing of family. "Miguel is an exceptional student," Pierce said carefully. "His ability to visualize mathematical concepts is remarkable. And your ability to explain them without visual aids is equally remarkable," Miguel's mother spoke up. "I've never seen him so excited about school before. Whatever you're doing, it's making a difference." The conversation shifted, but Pierce found himself stuck on those words. Making a difference. Throughout his career, he had measured success in dollars and cents, in market shares and profit margins. But here, in this room full of broken people finding their way back to wholeness, success meant something entirely different. After dinner, as people began to disperse, Claire touched his arm again. "You know, I have a theory about healing," she said. "Sometimes we have to lose what we think defines us to discover who we really are." "And who am I without my sight?" Pierce asked, voicing the fear that had haunted him since the accident. "That's what you're here to find out, isn't it?" She squeezed his arm gently. "But from what I've seen tonight, you're more than just the man who can't see. You're the man who helps a young boy see mathematics in a new way. That's something, don't you think?" Later that evening, as Thomas drove him home, Pierce found himself reflecting on the evening. He had expected to feel depleted by the social interaction, drained by the effort of navigating a world he couldn't see. Instead, he felt connected. His phone buzzed, a message from Catherine. "Board meeting tomorrow. They're expecting an update on your condition." Reality crashed back. Tomorrow he would have to face the corporate world again, explain his progress, or lack thereof, to people who measured everything in quarterly reports and profit projections. How could he make them understand what was happening at the center? How could he quantify the way Miguel's enthusiasm had begun to crack the walls around his heart? Or how Claire's quiet wisdom had shifted his perspective? As he prepared for bed that night, Pierce realized something that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. He was more anxious about missing his morning session at the center than about facing the board. Somewhere between the garden lessons, with Miguel and the shared meals with strangers turned friends, the center had become more than just a place of treatment. It had become a sanctuary, where he was learning to navigate not just his physical blindness, but the emotional blindness that had shaped his entire life. The question was, could these two worlds coexist? Or would he have to choose between the empire he had built and the new path he was beginning to discover? The familiar scent of leather and expensive cologne filled the boardroom, but Pierce noticed something else now: tension, thick and palpable in the air. His heightened awareness of non-visual cues, developed over weeks at the center, picked up the subtle shifts in breathing, the uncomfortable rustling of papers, the weighted silence that greeted his entrance. "Alexander," Marcus began, his voice carefully neutral. "The board has been patient, but we need concrete updates. How are these alternative treatments progressing?" Pierce sat straight in his chair, muscle memory guiding him to his usual position of authority. "The treatments are ongoing. Master Chen's methods are unconventional, but—" "Unconventional," Johnson interrupted. "We're not running a wellness retreat, Pierce. This company needs leadership, not meditation sessions and herb therapy." The old Pierce would have responded with cutting logic and cold statistics, but something had changed. He thought of Miguel's persistence in facing his challenges, of Claire's quiet strength, of the community that had welcomed him without judgment. "When I built this company," he began slowly, "I believed that everything of value could be measured. Success, growth, progress, all quantifiable metrics. But these past weeks have taught me something important about different kinds of value." "Different kinds of value?" another board member scoffed. "The shareholders aren't interested in personal growth, Alexander. They want stability and returns." "And they'll have them," Pierce assured, his voice firm. "But consider this. What if our definition of success has been too narrow? What if there's untapped potential in approaching problems from a different perspective?" "What exactly are you suggesting?" Marcus asked, curiosity tempering his concern. Pierce leaned forward. "I'm suggesting that while I work through my own healing, we have an opportunity to expand our company's vision. The center where I'm receiving treatment, they operate on a shoestring budget, yet they achieve remarkable results. Results that traditional medicine, with all its resources, often fails to match." "This isn't a charity, Pierce," Johnson protested. "No, it's an investment opportunity." Pierce felt energy coursing through him as the idea took shape. "Think about it. Alternative medicine is a growing market, but it lacks the structure and credibility of traditional healthcare. What if we could bridge that gap? Create a network of healing centers that combine proven alternative methods with proper business infrastructure." The room fell silent as the board members considered his words. Pierce could almost hear their minds working, calculating potential returns and market opportunities. "You're talking about a complete pivot," Marcus said slowly. "It's risky." "Everything worthwhile is risky," Pierce responded, thinking of his first stumbling steps in the center's garden. "But I've never been more certain of anything. I'm not asking you to abandon our core business. I'm asking you to expand our vision." "And your condition?" someone asked hesitantly. "My condition has taught me more about leadership than 20 years of success ever did," Pierce said firmly. "I'm not the same man who built this company, and that's not a weakness, it's an evolution." The meeting continued for another hour, filled with questions about logistics, market analysis, and implementation strategies. Pierce answered each with a combination of his old business acumen and his new insights. By the end, he could sense a shift in the room's energy. As the board members filed out, Marcus remained behind. "That was unexpected," he said, "but I think you might be onto something. Emily told me the changes she's seen in you, but I didn't quite believe it until today." "Your daughter's intervention changed my life," Pierce admitted, "though not in the way any of us expected." "And the treatments? Any physical improvement?" Pierce shook his head. "Not yet. But I'm beginning to think that wasn't the point. Master Chen once told me that sometimes we need to lose our sight to learn how to see." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "The board will need more than philosophy, Alexander. They'll want results." "Then we'll give them results," Pierce said confidently. "But we'll measure them differently. Success isn't just about profit margins anymore. It's about impact, about transformation, about making a real difference in people's lives." As he left the boardroom that day, Pierce felt lighter than he had in weeks. He had faced his corporate world not as a diminished version of his former self, but as someone new, someone who was learning to see value in things that couldn't be captured in spreadsheets. His phone buzzed, a text from Miguel that his assistant read aloud. "Don't forget our math lesson tomorrow. I have a new puzzle to show you." Pierce smiled, realizing that somehow, against all logic, his two worlds were beginning to merge. The question now wasn't whether he could maintain his corporate empire while pursuing this new path. It was how he could use one to enhance the other. The weeks following the board meeting brought changes that even Pierce's most sophisticated algorithms couldn't have predicted. His proposal to create a network of healing centers had sparked intense debate within the company, but it had also awakened something unexpected: genuine enthusiasm among younger executives who saw the potential for meaningful impact beyond profit margins. The initial market research is promising. Catherine reported during their morning drive to the center. There's a growing demand for alternative healing approaches, especially among millennials and Gen Z. But it's your personal story that's capturing attention. Pierce shifted in his seat. My story? Word has gotten out about your transformation. The ruthless CEO finding healing through alternative medicine. It's compelling. Several major publications want interviews. I'm not interested in becoming a media spectacle, Pierce said firmly, though without the sharp edge that would have accompanied such a statement months ago. No, but you could become a bridge, Catherine suggested. Between the corporate world you came from and this new path you're discovering, people are interested in that journey. Before Pierce could respond, they arrived at the center. The familiar scents of herbs and flowers greeted him as he stepped out of the car. His cane, once a symbol of weakness, now felt like a natural extension of his arm as he navigated the path to the entrance. Mr. Pierce, Miguel's excited voice called out, you're just in time. Master Chen is teaching us about sacred geometry in the garden. Pierce found himself smiling. Sacred geometry? That sounds like an interesting intersection of our usual mathematics lessons. Miguel's hand slipped into his, guiding him toward the garden. It's amazing. The flowers grow in patterns that follow mathematical rules, but Master Chen says there's something more to it, something about the energy and spirit of nature. The boy begins to understand, Master Chen's voice greeted them. As do you, Alexander, though you still resist acknowledging it. The morning session was unlike anything Pierce had experienced before. Master Chen guided them through the garden, explaining how mathematical principles like the golden ratio appeared naturally in plants and flowers. But he went beyond the numbers, speaking of the life force that flowed through everything, the interconnectedness that couldn't be measured but could be felt. Feel this spiral, Master Chen instructed, guiding Pierce's hand to a shell. The Fibonacci sequence made manifest. But what makes it truly remarkable isn't the mathematics, it's the life force that chose this perfect pattern for its expression. As Pierce traced the spiral, something shifted in his perception. The pattern was indeed mathematically perfect, but there was something more, a sense of rightness, of natural harmony that transcended pure calculation. I think I understand, Miguel said softly. It's like when we solved that really hard equation last week. The numbers were right, but it was beautiful too, wasn't it? The way everything fit together perfectly. Pierce felt a surge of emotion he couldn't quite name. Yes, he admitted. Beauty in mathematics isn't just about correct answers. It's about harmony. Now you begin to see, Master Chen said approvingly. The universe speaks in many languages. Mathematics is one, but there are others equally important. Your challenge is learning to listen to them all. Later that Yi-Sui afternoon, Pierce sat with Claire in the center's common room. She was working on a new painting while he shared his plans for expanding the center's reach. So you're going to turn this place into a corporate enterprise? She asked, her tone curious rather than judgmental. Not exactly, Pierce explained. The idea is to create a network of centers like this one, maintaining their integrity while providing resources and infrastructure, making this kind of healing more accessible without compromising its essence. Claire was quiet for a moment, her brush strokes audible against the canvas. You know, when I first started painting after my stroke, I tried to recreate my old style exactly. It was frustrating, impossible. Then one day I stopped fighting my new limitations and started exploring what they made possible. That's when I found my new voice as an artist. And you think that's what I'm doing now? I think you're finding a way to blend your old strengths with your new insights, she said thoughtfully. That's not compromise, it's evolution. The conversation was interrupted by Maria, who brought news that would reshape everything once again. Alexander, she said, her voice carrying an unusual urgency, there's someone here you need to meet, a boy. He says he has a message for you. Pierce felt a strange, tingling sensation at the base of his skull. A message? Yes, Maria replied. He says he knows how to help you see again. The words hung in the air like suspended particles of light. Pierce sat perfectly still, feeling the weight of this moment. Months ago, such a claim would have sparked desperate hope. Now something deeper stirred within him, a recognition that perhaps true sight involved more than just physical vision. "This boy," Pierce asked carefully, "where did he come from?" "The streets," Maria answered softly. "He has no family. But there's something special about him, something that reminds me of Miguel when he first came to us." Pierce stood, his decision made. "Take me to him." As he followed Maria's footsteps, Pierce realized that regardless of what this mysterious boy might offer, he had already gained something invaluable, the ability to see with his heart what his eyes had never truly perceived. Whatever came, next would build upon that foundation, not replace it. The boy was waiting in Master Chen's private meditation room, a space Pierce had come to know well through their daily sessions. The air felt different today, charged with an energy he couldn't explain but had learned not to dismiss. "My name is David," the boy spoke before anyone could make introductions. His voice was young but carried an old soul's weight. "I've been watching you, Mr. Pierce." Pierce sat carefully in his usual spot, aware of Master Chen's presence by the door. "Watching me? How?" "From the streets, near your office building. I used to sleep in the alley behind it." David's voice moved closer. "I saw you before everything changed. Always rushing, always looking at papers and phones, never really seeing anything at all." The observation struck Pierce with its simple truth. "And now?" "Now you're learning to see differently." "That's good, that's necessary." David paused and Pierce heard him shifting position. "But you're not complete yet. There's more to your journey." "You said you could help me see again," Pierce prompted, keeping his voice neutral despite the anticipation building in his chest. "Not me," David corrected, "but I know who can. There's a woman in the mountains. She works with energy and light in ways your doctors would never understand. She helped my friend Joey when the hospitals said he would never walk again." Pierce felt Master Chen move closer. "This healer?" the old master asked. "She practices the ancient ways?" "Yes," David replied simply. "She doesn't take money. She doesn't advertise. She only helps those who are ready to receive healing." "And you think I'm ready?" Pierce asked, genuinely curious. "I think you weren't ready before," David said, "when you only believed in what you could measure and control, but now you're beginning to understand that some truths exist beyond proof." The room fell silent. Pierce could feel both Master Chen and Maria watching, waiting for his response. Months ago, he would have dismissed this as nonsense, a child's fantasy, or a clever scam, but he wasn't that man anymore. "Tell me more about this healer," he said finally. David's story unfolded like a mystery novel. The healer lived in a remote area, accessible only by a challenging mountain trail. She worked with a combination of light therapy, energy healing, and ancient practices that defied modern medical classification. Her success stories were numerous but undocumented, healing that happened in the shadows of conventional medicine. "It won't be easy," David warned. "The journey itself is a test. She only helps those who prove their commitment by making the trek to her sanctuary. A physical challenge for a blind man," Pierce mused. "Quite a test indeed." "You wouldn't go alone," Master Chen interjected. "Such journeys are never meant to be solitary." "I'll go with you." Miguel's voice suddenly piped up from the doorway, making everyone start. "Sorry, I was passing by and couldn't help overhearing, but I know the mountains. Mom and I used to hike there before." His voice trailed off, but Pierce understood. Before his condition had limited their activities, before they'd found the center, before everything changed. "Miguel, this would be dangerous," Maria protested. "The trail is something I know better than most adults," Miguel finished firmly. "And Mr. Pierce has helped me so much. Let me help him too." Pierce sat quietly, absorbing the implications of this moment. The pragmatic businessman in him wanted to research this healer, demand credentials, seek verification, but that part of him was no longer in control. Instead, he found himself thinking about the morning glories in the garden, about sacred geometry, about the patterns that existed beyond human understanding. "When?" he asked simply. "The next new moon," David replied. "That's when her healing powers are strongest. You have 2 weeks to prepare." 2 weeks to decide if he was ready to take this leap of faith. 2 weeks to prepare for a journey that defied logic but resonated with something deeper, something he was only beginning to understand. "There are no guarantees," David added softly. "She doesn't promise miracles, she only promises truth." "Truth," Pierce repeated, tasting the word. "I used to think I knew what that meant." "And now?" Master Chen prompted. Pierce smiled slightly. "Now I'm learning that truth, like sight, comes in many forms. Some we see with our eyes, some with our hearts, and some we can only discover by letting go of everything we think we know." The decision crystallized in that moment. Whether this journey led to restored physical sight or not, it was a path he needed to take. The next chapter of his transformation was beginning, and like everything else in his new life, it would require faith, courage, and the wisdom to trust in things that couldn't be measured or controlled. The 2 weeks of preparation passed in a blur of intense activity. Pierce found himself thrust into a rigorous training program designed by Master Chen to prepare him for the mountain journey. Each morning began with exercises to strengthen his other senses and improve his balance, followed by long walks through increasingly challenging terrain. "Your body must be strong," Master Chen instructed, "but your mind must be stronger. The mountain will test both." Miguel proved to be an invaluable training partner, his enthusiasm infectious as he helped Pierce navigate various obstacles. The boy's knowledge of the mountain trails was impressive, and he took his role as guide seriously. "See, if you feel the ground with your cane like this," Miguel demonstrated, guiding Pierce's hand, "you can tell the difference between loose rocks and solid ground. That's super important on the trail." Catherine visited regularly, divided between concern and cautious support. "The board is nervous about this expedition," she reported one afternoon. "They're worried about the risks." "The board has been worried about everything since the accident," Pierce replied, wiping sweat from his brow after a particularly challenging training session. "But they can't deny the results we're already seeing with the new Healing Center initiative." Indeed, Pierce's vision to expand the center's reach had begun to take shape, even as he prepared for his journey. The first satellite location was already under construction, and interest from potential partners had exceeded all projections. "It's not just about business anymore, is it?" Catherine asked softly. Pierce shook his head. "No, it's about something bigger, something I couldn't see when I could see." A week before the planned departure, Claire presented him with a special gift, a walking stick she had carved herself. "I worked on it between paintings," she explained, guiding his hands over the smooth wood. "Each pattern represents a part of your journey so far." Pierce's fingers traced the intricate carvings, spirals reminiscent of the sacred geometry in the garden, mathematical symbols that felt like old friends, and patterns he couldn't identify but somehow understood. "The unknown patterns are for the journey ahead," Claire said, as if reading his mind. "Some stories haven't been carved yet." The night before their departure, the center hosted a special community dinner. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and support. Even David, usually so elusive, joined them, sitting quietly at Pierce's side. "Are you afraid?" the boy asked during a lull in conversation. Pierce considered the question carefully. "Not of the physical challenges," he replied honestly, "but of what I might find at the end of this journey. Yes, in ways I'm only beginning to understand." "Good," David said simply. "Fear shows respect for the path ahead." Later that evening, Pierce sat in the garden one last time, absorbing the peaceful atmosphere he had come to love. Miguel's mother approached, her footsteps hesitant. "I want you to know," she began, her voice thick with emotion, "that regardless of what happens on the mountain, you've already worked a kind of miracle here. The way you've helped Miguel, not just with math, but with his confidence, his sense of possibility." "He's helped me more than I've helped him," Pierce interrupted gently. "Your son sees the world in a way that's taught me to question everything. I thought I knew." "Still," she persisted, "I need you to promise me you'll keep him safe up there." "With my life," Pierce assured her, realizing he meant it with every fiber of his being. The boy who had started as a student had become something far more precious, a guide not just through the garden, but through a new way of seeing the world. As the evening wound down, Master Chen took Pierce aside for one final lesson. "Tomorrow, you begin a journey that cannot be measured in miles alone," the old master said. "Remember what you've learned here, that true sight begins in the heart, that some truths can only be felt, and that sometimes we must lose our way to find our path." "Will you come with us?" Pierce asked, though he already knew the answer. "No," Master Chen replied. "This part of the journey belongs to you, Miguel, and whatever guides you'll meet along the way. My role has been to prepare you. Now you must walk the path yourself." That night, lying in bed, Pierce realized how far he'd come from the man who had first entered the center months ago. That man had been blind long before he lost his sight, locked in a prison of numbers and control. Now, preparing to climb a mountain he couldn't see in search of a healer he wasn't sure existed, he felt more clear-sighted than ever before. His phone buzzed one last time, a message from Thomas, who would drive them to the trailhead in the morning. "Everything's ready, sir. We leave at dawn." Pierce touched the walking stick Claire had given him, feeling the patterns of his journey beneath his fingers. Tomorrow would begin a new chapter, one that couldn't be predicted or controlled. And for the first time in his life, he was ready to embrace the unknown. The mountain air bit cold and crisp as Pierce stepped out of the car at the trailhead. Even through his layers of carefully chosen hiking gear, he could feel the chill of early morning. Miguel bounced beside him, practically vibrating with excitement. "The trail starts here," Miguel explained, his voice carrying easily in the quiet dawn. "It's pretty smooth for the first mile or so, then it gets more challenging. But don't worry, I've practiced this part with you lots of times." Pierce adjusted his grip on Claire's walking stick, feeling the familiar patterns ground him. Thomas helped them shoulder their packs, lightweight but containing everything they might need for the 3-day journey to the healer's sanctuary. "The weather report looks good," Thomas said, concern evident in his voice. "But please be careful, and Mr. Pierce, good luck." As Thomas's car pulled away, leaving them alone at the base of the mountain, Pierce felt the weight of the moment settle around him. The familiar sounds of the city were gone, replaced by bird calls and the whisper of wind through trees. "Ready?" Miguel asked, taking his position at Pierce's side. "Lead the way," Pierce replied, surprising himself with the calmness in his voice. The first hour of hiking went smoothly, just as Miguel had predicted. They fell into a rhythm, Miguel describing the path. Ahead, Pierce using his stick and newly heightened senses to navigate the terrain. The boy's descriptions were a blend of practical information and pure wonder. "There's a big rock formation coming up on the right," Miguel would say. "It looks like a sleeping giant. And watch out for the tree root about 3 steps ahead. It reminds me of the sine waves we graphed last week." As they climbed higher, the trail began to change. The smooth path gave way to more challenging terrain, requiring more concentration and trust between them. Pierce found himself drawing on everything he'd learned during their training sessions, but also discovering new abilities he hadn't known he possessed. "You're getting really good at this," Miguel observed during a brief rest. "You can tell the different types of ground just by the sound your stick makes when it hits them." Pierce nodded, realizing the boy was right. "The slate makes a sharp click, while decomposed granite has a softer sound. Master Chen taught me to listen not just with my ears, but with my whole body." They continued climbing, the sun warming their backs as morning progressed. Miguel kept up a steady stream of conversation, mixing trail guidance with observations about nature and occasional mathematical puzzles to keep their minds engaged. Around midday, they stopped for lunch in what Miguel described as a small meadow surrounded by towering pines. As they sat eating the sandwiches Maria had packed, Pierce noticed something strange. "The birds," he said suddenly. "They've gone quiet." Miguel fell silent too, and Pierce could feel him tensing beside him. "There's someone coming up the trail," the boy whispered. Pierce gripped his walking stick tighter, listening intently. Yes, footsteps approaching, light and sure on the rocky path. A voice called out, carrying clearly through the mountain air. "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step," a woman's voice quoted, "but the most important steps are often the ones we take after falling." Sarah? Miguel's voice was filled with surprise and recognition. Is that really you? Hello, little mathematician, the woman replied warmly. And Mr. Pierce, I've been waiting for you. You know each other? Pierce asked, sensing there was more to this meeting than chance. Sarah used to come to the center, Miguel explained. She helped me when I was first learning to walk again, but then she left to study with the mountain healer. And now I help guide others who are ready to make the journey, Sarah said, moving closer. Pierce could hear the smile in her voice. Master Chen sent word that you were coming. He asked me to meet you here. He said this was our journey to make alone, Pierce said, a note of confusion in his voice. Alone doesn't always mean without help, Sarah replied. The mountain has its own rules, its own wisdom. Sometimes it sends guides to those who are ready to learn its lessons. As if to emphasize her words, a warm breeze swept through the meadow, carrying the scent of pine and something else, something ancient, and knowing that made Pierce think of Master Chen's garden. The next part of the trail is the most challenging, Sarah continued. You'll need both your strength and your trust. Are you ready to continue? Pierce stood, feeling Miguel rise beside him. The walking stick felt alive in his hands, the carved patterns seeming to pulse with energy. We're ready, he said, and knew it was true. As they resumed their journey, now with Sarah walking alongside them, Pierce realized that this meeting was another lesson in letting go of control. The mountain would reveal its secrets in its own time, through its own chosen messengers. His task was not to question or direct, but to remain open to whatever guidance appeared along the way. The afternoon brought new challenges as the trail grew steeper and more treacherous. Sarah's presence proved invaluable, her experience complementing Miguel's enthusiasm. She taught them to read the mountain in ways Pierce had never imagined possible. Listen to the wind, she instructed during a particularly difficult stretch. It tells you what's ahead. A hollow sound means a drop-off nearby. A whistling means we're approaching a narrow passage. Pierce found himself developing an entirely new vocabulary of sound and sensation. The mountain spoke in a language of shifting rocks, whispering trees, and changing air currents. His walking stick became an extension of his consciousness, each tap revealing secrets about the path ahead. It's like a mathematical equation, Miguel observed excitedly. Every sound and feeling is a variable, and when you put them together, they tell you the whole story. Exactly, Sarah agreed. The mountain doesn't hide its truth. It simply speaks in ways we must learn to understand. As the day wore on, the temperature began to drop. The sun's warmth, which had been their constant companion, started to fade. Pierce could feel the change in the air, a crispness that spoke of higher elevation. We should make camp soon, Sarah announced. There's a protected hollow ahead that will serve us well for the night. The process of setting up camp was another lesson in trust and cooperation. Pierce found himself helping in ways he wouldn't have thought possible months ago, gathering firewood by following the sound of dead branches crackling underfoot, helping Miguel secure the tent lines by feeling the proper tension. As they sat around the campfire later, its warmth a welcome barrier against the mountain chill, Sarah shared stories of her own journey from the center to the mountain healer. I was like you once, Mr. Pierce, she said softly. Trapped in a world of limitations. Mine were physical, but the real prison was in my mind. The healer showed me that our greatest obstacles are often the ones we create for ourselves. Did she restore your ability to walk? Pierce asked, noting how sure-footed Sarah had been on the trail. She helped me find my own path to healing, Sarah replied. Sometimes the cure we seek isn't the one we need. Sometimes the journey itself is the medicine. Miguel, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. Like how teaching me math helped you see things differently, Mr. Pierce. The observation struck Pierce deeply. Yes, teaching Miguel had changed him in ways no medical treatment could have. It had opened his heart when his eyes had closed. The conversation was interrupted by a distant sound, a haunting call that echoed through the mountains. What was that? Pierce asked, feeling Miguel shift closer to him. Mountain spirits, Sarah answered, and Pierce could hear the smile in her voice. Or so the local legends say. The old stories tell of guardians who test those who seek the healer's wisdom. Are they real? Miguel asked, his voice a mix of fear and fascination. What is real? Sarah countered gently. The wind is real, yet we cannot see it. Love is real, yet we cannot measure it. Sometimes the most real things are the ones that exist beyond our usual understanding. The night deepened around them, and Pierce found himself more attuned than ever to the mountain's rhythm. Every rustle of leaves, every distant call, every crack of the fire told part of an ancient story. He thought of his former self, the man who would have dismissed all of this as superstition and wishful thinking. "Tell us more about the healer," he requested, pulling his jacket tighter against the evening chill. Sarah was quiet for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. "She's not what you might expect. She doesn't perform miracles or promise instant cures. Instead, she helps people find their own path to wholeness. Some call her a mystic, others a scientist who's discovered secrets beyond modern medicine. The truth, I suspect, lies somewhere in between. Like the sacred geometry in Master Chen's garden," Miguel added thoughtfully. "Science and spirit together." "Exactly," Sarah agreed. "But reaching her isn't just about climbing this mountain. Each person's journey is different, shaped by what they need to learn most." Pierce touched the patterns on his walking stick, feeling the story of his own journey carved into the wood. "And what do I need to learn?" "That's something only you can discover," Sarah replied, "but I suspect you've already begun to understand it." As they prepared for sleep, Pierce lay in his sleeping bag, listening to Miguel's steady breathing and the countless voices of the night. The mountain seemed alive around them, pulsing with ancient wisdom and untold stories. Tomorrow would bring them closer to their destination, but Pierce was beginning to understand that the physical journey was only part of the story. Each step up the mountain was also a step into himself, into truths he had long ignored in his pursuit of control and certainty. Dawn broke with a challenge. Rain had fallen during the night, transforming the already difficult trail into treacherous terrain. The sound of water was everywhere, dripping from leaves, running in small streams across their path, creating new obstacles they would have to navigate. "The mountain is testing us," Sarah said as they broke camp. "These conditions will require perfect trust between all of us." Pierce soon understood what she meant. The wet rocks were slippery, the mud unpredictable. He had to rely completely on Miguel's guidance and Sarah's experience, surrendering any illusion of independence. "Small steps," Miguel instructed his young, voice steady and focused. "There's a tricky part coming up. The trail narrows and there's a drop to the right. But we've trained for this, remember? Just like in the garden when we practiced on the raised path." Pierce nodded, concentrating on each step. His walking stick probed the ground ahead, sending subtle vibrations up through his hands that told stories about the terrain. The rain had intensified the earthy scents around them, creating an olfactory map he could follow. "You're doing great," Sarah encouraged from behind. "Notice how the sound of the stream gets louder when we're near the edge. The mountain gives us signs if we learn to listen." They had been climbing for several hours when Miguel suddenly stopped. "Mr. Pierce," he said, his voice tight with concern, "there's a problem ahead. The rain has washed out part of the trail." Sarah moved forward to assess the situation. "He's right. There's a gap about 6 feet across. The old trail has collapsed." Pierce felt his heart rate increase. "Is there another way around?" "Going back down would lose us half a day," Sarah replied, "and the alternate route is even more dangerous. In these conditions, we need to cross here." "But how?" Miguel asked, and Pierce could hear the fear creeping into the boy's voice. Sarah was quiet for a moment, thinking. "There's a fallen tree that could serve as a bridge. It's solid, wide enough to cross safely, but I'm blind." "Pierce, finished? And you're not sure I can make it across?" "No," Sarah corrected. "I'm not sure you're ready to trust enough to make it across." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Pierce thought of all the moments that had led him here, teaching Miguel to see beauty in equations, learning to navigate the garden without sight, opening his heart to the center's community. Each step had required him to trust more, to let go of control. "Miguel," he said finally, "do you trust me?" "Of course," the boy replied instantly. "Then I trust you. You'll be my eyes for this crossing." They developed a plan. Sarah would go first, securing a rope guide. Miguel would talk, Pierce across describing every detail, while Sarah anchored the other end. The whole process would require perfect coordination and absolute trust. "The log is 2 feet wide," Miguel began, his voice slipping into the precise tone he used during their math lessons. "The surface is rough, which gives good traction despite the rain. Think of it like a number line. You're starting at 0 and each step takes you 1 unit closer to the other side." Pierce smiled at the mathematical reference. Even here, facing this challenge, they found comfort in their shared language of numbers. As he stepped onto the log, the world narrowed to Miguel's voice and the sensations under his feet. The boy's instructions were perfect, clear, calm, and exact. "Small step right, good. Now left foot slightly higher and perfect. You're 1/3 of the way across." Pierce could hear the stream below, feel the spray of water on his face. But instead of feeding his fear, these sensations became part of the information he needed to maintain his balance. The walking stick tested each section before he committed. His weight, its carved patterns pressing reassuringly against his palms. "You're halfway there," Miguel called. The log curves slightly to the left now, about 5 degrees, like a gentle arc on a graph. Step by step, guided by Miguel's voice and his own growing trust in his abilities, Pierce made his way across. When his feet finally touched solid ground, on the other side he heard both Sarah and Miguel release heavy breaths. "That would," Miguel started. "Perfect," Sarah finished. "Absolutely perfect. Not just the crossing, the trust, the teamwork, the way you turned a challenge into a lesson." As they rested briefly before continuing their journey, Pierce reflected on what had just happened. Months ago, he would have considered this crossing impossible, but something had changed in him. He had learned to see possibilities where, before he had only seen limitations. "The mountain's tests are never random," Sarah said softly. "Each challenge reveals something we need to understand about ourselves." "And what did this one reveal?" Pierce asked. "That true vision isn't about what your eyes can see," she replied. "It's about what your heart knows is possible." The third day of their journey dawned clear and cold. Pierce woke to the sound of Miguel gasping in wonder. "The whole valley is filled with clouds below us," the boy exclaimed. "It's like we're on an island in the sky, and the sunrise, and it's turning everything gold and pink." Sarah's voice joined in, gentle and knowing. "We're close now. The healer's sanctuary lies just beyond the next ridge, but the final ascent will be our greatest challenge yet." As they packed up camp for the last time, Pierce could feel a change in the air, not just the thin atmosphere of high altitude, but something else, something that made the carved patterns on his walking stick seem to tingle against his palms. "The air feels different," he observed. "Almost electric." "The ancient ones called this the veil," Sarah explained. "They said it was where the physical and spiritual worlds grew thin enough to touch. Modern scientists have recorded unusual electromagnetic readings in this area, though they can't explain why." Miguel pressed closer to Pierce's side. "Is that why my skin feels funny? Like tiny sparkles all over?" "Your sensitivity to it is." "It's a good sign," Sarah replied. "The healer says only those who can feel the veil are truly ready for what lies beyond it." They began their final climb. The trail here was unlike anything they'd encountered before, not just physically challenging, but somehow more profound. Each step seemed to carry extra weight, as if the mountain itself was testing their resolve. "The path splits ahead," Sarah announced after an hour of climbing. "This is where I leave you." "Leave us?" Miguel's voice carried a note of anxiety. "But we don't know the way." "You know more than you think," Sarah assured him, "and this part of the journey must be made without my guidance. The right path will reveal itself to those who are ready to see it." Pierce felt her approach. She took his hand, pressing something small and smooth into it. "A gift from the mountain," she said. "Use it when you need it most." Before he could ask what it was, she was gone. Her footsteps faded away, leaving Pierce and Miguel alone in the charged mountain air. "What did she give you?" Miguel asked. Pierce ran his fingers over the object. "It feels like a crystal of some kind." perfectly smooth on one side, naturally rough on the other. He carefully tucked it into his pocket, somehow knowing its importance would become clear. Later, they stood at the crossroads, feeling the weight of the decision before them. Pierce could hear two distinct sounds, a whisper of wind from the left path, a faint chiming from the right. "Which way?" Miguel asked, his voice small in the vast mountain silence. Pierce thought of everything that had led them here, the accident that took his sight, Master Chen's lessons, the garden's sacred geometry, the center's healing community. Each step had taught him to trust in something beyond logic and control. "Miguel," he said carefully, "close your eyes." "But why?" "I need to see the path to guide you." "Trust me. Close your eyes and tell me what you feel." A moment of silence then. It's like when we work on a really hard math problem. You know how sometimes the answer just feels right even before we check it? The left path feels like that. Pierce smiled. "Then that's our way." They began walking, both now relying on senses beyond sight. The path grew steeper, rockier, but somehow they moved with increasing confidence. Pierce's walking stick seemed to find the right places on its own, while Miguel's steps grew sure and steady beside him. "Mr. Pierce," Miguel said after a while, "something's changing. The air, it's like it's getting thicker with light. I can barely keep my eyes open, it's so bright." Pierce nodded, feeling it too, a palpable energy that seemed to press against his skin. The crystal in his pocket grew warm, resonating with whatever force surrounded them. Suddenly, Miguel stopped. "Oh," he breathed, the single syllable filled with wonder. "What is it?" Pierce asked, though something in him already knew. "We're here. There's a gate, I guess. But it's not really a gate. It's like the air itself is doorway, all shimmering and moving. And behind it, yes, the most beautiful garden I've ever seen. Even more amazing than Master Chen's, and there's someone waiting for us." Pierce reached into his pocket, touching the crystal Sarah had given him. It pulsed with warmth, like a tiny heartbeat against his palm. "Are you ready?" he asked Miguel, though the question was equally for himself. The boy's hand slipped into his, squeezing gently. "Together," Miguel said firmly. They stepped forward and the world changed. Pierce felt it immediately, a sensation like walking through a waterfall of pure energy. The crystal in his pocket grew hot, and suddenly his world exploded with light. The light that filled Pierce's world wasn't visual in any way he had previously understood. It was a sensation that transcended ordinary perception, as if every cell in his body could suddenly see. Colors had taste, sounds had texture, and the boundaries between senses dissolved into a symphony of pure awareness. "Welcome," a voice said. Or perhaps it wasn't a voice at all, but rather a ripple in the extraordinary field of energy surrounding them. "You've come far, both in distance and understanding." Miguel's hand tightened in his. "Mr. Pierce," the boy whispered, She's not what I expected." The presence moved closer. Pierce felt rather than heard her smile. "What did you expect, young one? An old woman in mysterious robes? The truth often defies our expectations." Pierce found himself reaching for his pocket for the crystal Sarah had given him. As his fingers touched it, the sensations intensified. The crystal seemed to sing against his skin, harmonizing with the energy around them. "Ah," the healer said, "you brought a piece of the mountain's heart with you. Sarah chose well." "Can you restore my sight?" Pierce asked, though somehow the question felt smaller now, less important than it had at the beginning of their journey. "I can help you see," the healer replied, her words carrying layers of meaning. "But first you must understand what true vision means. Miguel, would you like to help demonstrate?" "Me?" Miguel's voice carried surprise. "How?" "Share with us what you see right now. Not with your eyes, but with your heart." Miguel was quiet for a moment, then began to speak. "I see connections, like the patterns we studied in sacred geometry, but alive. Everything is connected by threads of light. Mr. Pierce, you're glowing with all these amazing colors, especially around your heart. And there are equations. No, they're more like music, but I can understand them like mathematics. As Miguel spoke, Pierce found himself seeing through the boy's descriptions, experiencing reality on a level he had never imagined possible. The crystal in his hand pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, with Miguel's voice, with the very fabric of existence around them. Now you begin to understand, the healer said. Sight is not limited to the eyes. Your journey here has taught you to see with your whole being, through touch, through sound, through the mathematics you share with Miguel, through the wisdom of your heart. But my physical vision, Pierce began, can be restored, she completed. The damage is not beyond repair, but that healing will only have true meaning if you maintain this deeper sight you've gained. Are you ready for both? Pierce felt Miguel squeeze his hand again, grounding him in the moment. He thought of everything he had learned, the lessons in the garden, the trust built on the mountain trail, the connections forged at the center. He thought of how his blindness had opened him to a world of possibilities he had been too blind to see before. Yes, he said finally. I'm ready to see everything. The healer moved closer. The crystal in Pierce's hand grew warmer, its energy spreading up his arm and throughout his body. He felt Miguel gasp beside him, presumably watching whatever transformation was taking place. The physical healing will take time, the healer explained, but the mountain has already given you its blessing, and your heart is finally open to receive it. Miguel, you have been an essential part of this journey. Your pure sight, your ability to bridge the worlds of logic and wonder, has helped prepare the way. The energy around them shifted, intensified. Pierce felt something changing deep within his eyes, within his brain, within his very understanding, vision itself. The crystal sang in his hand, its frequency matching some fundamental vibration of healing. Remember, the healer's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. True healing is not a destination, but a continuation of the journey. What begins here must be nurtured by the choices you make, the connections you maintain, the balance you strike between seeing with your eyes and seeing with your heart. As the energy began to stabilize, Pierce realized he could distinguish shapes, shadows, hints of light through his physical eyes. But more importantly, he could see the truth of the healer's words, could feel the reality of connection and wonder that no physical vision could fully capture. Miguel's voice came, filled with awe. Mr. Pierce, your eyes, they're changing. But you're still glowing, maybe even brighter than before. Pierce smiled, holding tight to both the crystal and Miguel's hand. He stood at the threshold of a new way of being, understanding that what he had come seeking was only the beginning of what he had found. The descent from the mountain was a journey through two worlds. With each passing hour, Pierce's physical vision grew stronger, shapes and shadows gradually resolving into clearer images. But it was the other kind of sight, the awareness that transcended mere visual perception, that truly transformed his experience. The colors around you keep changing, Miguel observed as they carefully made their way down the trail. It's like watching emotions turn into light. Pierce nodded, understanding exactly what the boy meant. Though his returning eyesight was still blurry, he could perceive the auras Miguel described, not with his eyes, but with that new sense the healer had awakened in him. Your light is different too, Pierce told Miguel. It sparkles when you talk about mathematics and glows steady and warm when you're helping. Others, I don't need perfect vision to see that. They found Sarah waiting for them at the crossroads where she had left them. One look at their transformed faces told her everything she needed to know. The mountain has blessed you both, she said simply, though perhaps not in the way you expected. The crystal the healer had given Pierce now hung on a cord around, his neck still humming with gentle energy. She had instructed him to keep it close during the healing process, explaining that it would help bridge the physical and spiritual aspects of his recovery. As they made their final camp on the mountain, Sarah shared more of her own story. When I first came to the healer, she said, I thought I was seeking a cure for my physical limitations. What I found instead was a complete redefinition of what it means to be whole. Pierce understood. His own journey had begun as a quest to restore his sight, but had become something far more profound. The man who had once trusted only in numbers and control had learned to see the mathematics of the heart, the geometry of human connection. That night, he called Catherine using the satellite phone they'd carried for emergencies. His sister's voice cracked with emotion when he told her he could see light and shadows, that full vision would return gradually over the next few weeks. "The board will be relieved," she began, but Pierce interrupted her. "The board's concerns are secondary. Now," he said firmly, "I'm coming back with a new vision for the company, one that goes beyond profit margins and market shares." "What do you mean?" "The healing center network we discussed. It's just the beginning. I've seen what's possible when we combine modern resources with ancient wisdom, when we measure success not just in dollars but in transformed lives." He could almost hear her smile through the phone. "You really have changed, haven't you?" "We all have the capacity to change," he replied, watching Miguel teach Sarah some of the sacred geometry they'd learned in Master Chen's garden. "Sometimes, we just need to lose our old way of seeing to discover a new one." The next morning, as they began the final leg of their descent, Pierce found himself seeing the mountain with both old and new vision. His physical sight continued to improve, bringing the landscape into ever sharper focus, but he could also perceive the deeper reality the healer had shown them, the living energy that connected everything, the mathematical patterns that undergirded creation itself. "Mr. Pierce," Miguel called out excitedly, "look at that sunrise. The light's making rainbow patterns in the air, just like the interference patterns we studied in wave mathematics." Pierce smiled, seeing both the physical phenomenon and its spiritual counterpart. The boy's ability to bridge both worlds, to see wonder in both science and spirit, had been a gift beyond measure. As they walked, Pierce thought about the changes awaiting them back in the world below. The company would need restructuring to accommodate his new vision. The Healing Center network would require careful planning to maintain its integrity while expanding its reach. His own role would need to evolve, incorporating both his business acumen and his newfound wisdom. But none of these challenges seemed insurmountable now. The mountain had taught him that the most important transitions happened in the heart first, that true vision began with the courage to see beyond surface appearances to deeper truths. "You're glowing extra bright right now," Miguel observed. "What are you thinking about?" "The future," Pierce replied honestly, "and how differently I see it now." "Is it scary?" the boy asked. "Seeing everything so differently?" Pierce touched the crystal at his neck, feeling its reassuring warmth. "Not scary," he said. "Exciting, like discovering a new kind of mathematics that explains not just numbers, but the whole of life itself." Miguel grinned, understanding perfectly. Together they continued down the mountain, each step bringing them closer to a world that would both test and celebrate their transformed vision. 1 month after their return from the mountain, Pierce stood in Master Chen's garden, marveling at how different everything looked through his fully restored vision. The flowers were exactly as Miguel had described them during those early lessons, mathematical perfection expressed in living color. But now he could see both their physical beauty and the subtle energy patterns that surrounded them. "The garden welcomes you back," Master Chen said, approaching quietly, "though I suspect you see it with new eyes in more ways than one." Pierce nodded, touching the crystal that still hung around his neck. "Everything looks different now, or perhaps I'm different." The transformation of Pierce Global Investments was already underway. The first integrated healing center had opened its doors the previous week, combining modern medical facilities with traditional healing practices. The waiting list was already months long. "Mr. Pierce," Miguel's voice rang out across the garden. The boy ran up to them, his movements smooth and natural, living proof of the center's success. "Look what Claire helped me create." He held a walking stick, carved with intricate patterns that combined mathematical symbols with flowing organic designs. "It's for the new center," he explained proudly, "to show how science and spirit work together." Pierce felt his heart swell with emotion he no longer tried to suppress. The boy who had been his guide through darkness had become something more, a bridge between worlds, just as Pierce himself now was. The garden was filling with people, members of the center's community, corporate executives, new patients, all gathering for the official announcement of the expanded healing network. Among them, Pierce spotted familiar faces, Catherine beaming with pride, Thomas chatting with Sarah, who had become the new center's head of alternative therapy, Claire, showing her latest paintings to a group of interested investors. "Are you ready?" Master Chen asked quietly. Pierce surveyed the scene before him, seeing it on every level, physical, emotional, spiritual. The connections between people glowed like living mathematics, each relationship its own equation of hope and healing. "I used to think I could control everything," he said thoughtfully. "Now I understand that true power lies in facilitating connection, in helping others find their own path to wholeness." He stepped forward to address the gathered crowd. The crystal at his neck hummed in harmony with his words as he shared his vision of a future where modern innovation and ancient wisdom worked hand in hand, where healing meant more than just curing ailments, where success was measured in transformed lives rather than just profit margins. As he spoke, he could see the energy in the garden shifting, brightening, as people caught the spark of possibility. Even the most hardened executives seemed moved by the tangible results already evident in the center's work. Miguel stood at his side, occasionally adding his own insights about the intersection of science and spirit. The boy's presence was a testament to the power of this new approach. His medical condition had improved beyond all conventional expectations, while his brilliant mind continued to bridge worlds that most thought separate. After the presentation, as people mingled and discussed the future, Claire approached with a new painting. It depicted the mountain sanctuary, but not just its physical appearance. Somehow she had captured the energy patterns, the sacred geometry, the very essence of healing they had encountered there. "For the new center," she said simply, "a reminder that some truths can only be seen with the heart." Pierce thanked her, understanding now that art, like mathematics, was just another language for expressing the deeper patterns of reality. His former self would have sought a way to quantify the painting's impact. His present self simply appreciated its truth. As the sun began to set, casting golden light through the garden, Pierce found himself standing in the exact spot where his journey had begun, where he had first met Miguel, first opened himself to new possibilities. "Full circle," Master Chen observed, appearing beside him, though spirals might be a more accurate geometric description. Pierce smiled, appreciating both the wisdom and the mathematical reference. "Nothing ends," he agreed. "It just transforms." The crystal at his neck pulsed warmly as if in agreement. In its facets, Pierce could see reflections of everything he had gained by losing his sight: connection, wisdom, a new way of seeing. That encompassed both the visible and invisible worlds. Miguel joined them, his energy bright with excitement about future projects. Together they stood in the gathering dusk. 3 generations united.